So thank you so much, Katie. I mean, just want to start with a moment of gratitude because, the Pride Way, it's such a privilege to be invited to be speaking in this forum. When I joined the Trust in 2019, I remember doing that mandatory training module online, and all the way from then to kind of now doing advanced lean training, it just means a lot to me that I can actually contribute in this way. And secondly, to thank actually Magda herself, as well as Tony, who's on the call, alongside Jem Shipley, who've let me kind of work in the arrangement I currently have, which essentially lets me invest my time in BHRUT in more ways than just as a clinical fellow. And I think the idea behind that, at least the way I see it, is it helps raise the tide to lift all boats. And personally, I see that as something that's beyond just the ED. As you all know, the ED is a key kind of frontline, right in the face department, but there's so much more to it than just what we see in our department itself. So thank you so much. And, I'd like to, make note of that first. And that actually leads on quite nicely because we speak a lot about continuous improvement in lean culture, but actually one of the other pillars, and arguably just as important, is that idea of respect for people. And it's the second one that I'd like to focus on based upon some of the improvements that I've been trying to implement in our ED. So back when Taichi Ono implemented this for Toyota, this idea of empowering our colleagues at the same time and not just focusing on the processes that we see on the manufacturing line as they saw it. So I wear a few hats, and essentially I work for the EDI agenda. I do a few things for the CCIO, and more recently, most of my hours have been for implementing and getting ready for our care flow transition. But what I'd like to focus on today comes to this graph. And I'm sure you'd recognize the concept. And essentially, the reason I bring it up is because of what you see, but also what you don't see in this little span between early March and late April of this year. So you ask two questions. Number one, you'd ask, why is he such a nerd? Why is he bringing up this graph? And why does he care about these numbers? And number two is you might ask where I get the data from. So number one, I can't answer that. I'm just a weirdo and I like this sort of thing. But number two is we get the data from this daily email, which collates our 4-hour emergency access standard as we go along each week. So again, I'll come back to this, but essentially, my journey started when I first began in 2019 of trying to think of how we can improve ED. So with the Pride Way in mind, I essentially went on a waste walk. And the waste walk began thinking, how can I improve things in the actual shop floor, the Gemba? And essentially my little thought process here, which is represented by these 3 emojis, comes down to essentially an idea of responsibility. So we spoke about respect for our colleagues, but we have to take ownership and responsibility when we know we can do better. I've heard Tony mention a few times on calls that the truth is in our trust, we unfortunately are susceptible to 6 out of 10 thinking. I mean, that I would say we have to stand up and accept. And we also know we're under scrutiny, represented by that magnifying glass. And essentially, the idea is we don't want, we are being looked at by the GMC for enhanced monitoring and education. We also looked at by the CQC. We have to perform to a high standard. And then thirdly, with the document, we've done our staff survey, and we know we have a lot to do in terms of empowering our colleagues. And what Ben Warren's spoken a lot before, of essentially having the standards that we expect of our colleagues. We also give them examples of how they can essentially meet the gold standard for how they work, but also empowering them to do that. So as I began my waste walk, those are what I had in mind. Didn't have to walk very far. This is Majors B. So the artist formerly known as Majors Light. And this is an example of a set of drawers we see for all the paperwork we do with an ED. And this ranges from simple forms we fill in for our patient safety all the way to referrals. And you can see, if you're familiar, a lot of the waste, the 7 types of waste when it comes to lean management, and ranging from overproduction, inventory, motion. And I tried to apply the 5 S's here, sorting, simplifying, sweeping, standardizing, and self-discipline in this after column, which shows just how we can essentially create a digital hub. So at the point of an email, our colleagues can access the forms they need without wasting the time that often leads to those breach thresholds in our department unnecessarily. So that started, and then I thought, how can I, integrate more medical education point of view? So I started helping voluntarily with inductions and teaching. That began in 2019, but then more recently, since 2020, I took on a more formal role, which included running inductions when consultants weren't there, and taking a mentorship approach to each junior who came into the department. And then we sought feedback. So here's an example. A very simple email, but a very intentional email. And the clear message here, if you have a look, is this idea that juniors coming into ED are feeling overwhelmed in their clinical decision process, this idea of they don't know what information to prioritize when, and they also don't know how best to use their time to actually get the job done in the way they're expected to get it done. So essentially from that, I thought we need to take a checklist approach to our clinical decision workflow. And here's an example. This is actually a rather simple example, but there are many examples how many overwhelming lists and numbers and apps we have to deal with. And I tried to break that down into a simple checklist. So this is not only to show the juniors that you can always use a system and you won't go far wrong if you use the system, but also to show them that it comes down to an idea of being systematic with the system, and then essentially making sure that your experience is iteratively improving every time you use the system. The very last line, as you might see, is you learn something from every case. And you take that away, and next time you'll be better at dealing with that kind of patient, even if it's non-medical, whether it comes down to an idea of how to compassionately explain something to someone, or move on from the case and reflect better as a medical professional. So, following on from that, back to this graph. Why am I so interested in this period of time? Well, there's a key inflection point, and that is the 5th to 7th of April, which happens to be the Wednesday to the Friday of when new junior doctors come into play. And this essentially is happening all around the country. You have, in our case, more than half of the junior trainee level workforce being replaced essentially overnight. And it's a phenomenon seen everywhere from teaching hospitals like Oxford to DGHs like Eastbourne, that you have a drop in performance, not only in ED, but everywhere in hospital, on the wards, in outpatients. We essentially have doctors getting thrown into a new working environment, and quite expectedly and understandably, they don't perform as well. So I thought, what could I do in this little purple gap, in this window of time, to improve the chances that our juniors feel ready when they come? Not only so they hit the ground running, but that they feel that they're more supported than they have been anywhere else they've been to before coming to this job. So what did I actually do? And it comes down to putting the person first. And clearly, the most important way is to seek feedback, to essentially, as I said, iterate on the process. And the idea of this induction, the one we ran in 2021, April for the first time, was to put the junior doctor first and essentially address their concerns, be pragmatic in terms of telling them how it works on the shop floor, and then also make sure that they have all the resources accessible to them at the easiest possible portal. And in my case, that was making a simple digital hub. Just some more feedback here, and you can see a line there saying having it on your phone is a game changer. Not only in terms of showing them how accessible that information is, but it's increasing their likelihood of engaging with it, and actually the likelihood that it'll impact positively on patient care. So I don't want to run over time. The last message I have is that cross-disciplinary approach, combining IT alongside human factors and ED processes, is what leads me to do what I do here at the Trust, and I'm very grateful that I can do it. When I receive feedback like this, it genuinely keeps me going. And I'm not showing this out of vanity, I'm showing it because I want everyone to feel like this when they get feedback like this from their colleagues, not ones who work in my department or my division, but elsewhere. And this can be replicated. I mean, I've heard of the GREATEX program. That is absolutely the right mindset. And going on from that, I just want people to feel fulfilled with this idea that there's more to the job than what we might have been programmed to think since medical school, because things have changed a lot since then for all of us. Finally, what have I learned? Well, I've learned, as always, to be grateful for the opportunities that come my way to improve things. I've also learned that we have to start with the grassroots and trying to break some of the silos that exist within a big organization like ours. I mean, we have a really solid structure for a reason, but some of the best things come from when we have that cross-fertilization between different silos. And again, coming back to gratitude, I'm so glad that we can still, keep our patients as number one in our priority. In our trust, we're lucky to have, PPE to help do our job. We are lucky to have medical leadership that's very accessible and supportive. And we're really lucky that at the end of the day, we know that we're on an upward trajectory right now. So without running too over time, I'll say that's a wrap. And thank you very much for listening.